So I was out filming my painting video, and then I figured, why not knock out two birds with one stone? So here I am, gonna film another video that I had an idea for. Everyone's religious. This video is not scripted, by the way. It was done completely on a whim. Like, I just wanted to knock it out, so here I am. Anyways, so might get rambly. And rambly, I got. Now, I've interacted with a lot of different people. I don't think religion is a bad word. Abrahamic religions especially. Abraham, Christ, and Muhammad. Everyone has ideas that they abide by. Yeah, everyone has worldviews. Like, there are some Christians who I'd say are, yeah, they're religious, just like Ted Kaczynski. Say what you will about the man himself as a murderer. The man's philosophy is fairly sound. Humans have this need to go through the power process. Charge blindly into the fray, damn the consequences. We are not evolved enough for this society, and most people are buried in their phones. I know that Stoicism and absurdism are pretty popular these days. I was into them before they were cool. Albert Camus, he said that someday I'd like to have my own homestead, help the plants and animals to thrive. I'm fairly content just being alone. And you might have, yeah, no myth for my religion. You might believe that there's a life after this. I don't think there is anything after this. This is all we got. Yeah, it's been raining. Farewell.
And so I've opted for the high road, the virtuous road, to put pants on those arcane ramblings and go off a script instead. I hope you enjoy this little Tony DiTerlizzi study on the screen as I do so. I know he has more skilled works, but this Arthur Spiderwick portrait has always stood out to me because of how much personality is conveyed. Anyways, as I was saying, everyone has a religion. And I don't mean that in the way that many evangelical apologists like to spout with how atheism is a religion. No, I'm an atheist, and I do not consider myself to be religious in that way. Some atheists may be religious if their lack of a belief in a deity is all they focus on and is what drives their actions, but such people are few and far between. When people say, I'm spiritual but not religious, or I'm Christian but not religious, I can't help but think, why do you sound so proud? Religion is the important part. It's what gives direction, purpose, and reason to your actions. So what if a spiritual realm exists or a conscious entity created the universe? Big deal. That doesn't change the direction of our lives. Now, whichever specific deity created the universe, that might change things. But simply whether everything was designed or not, it has as much bearing on our lives as whatever's at the center of the earth. Religious belief without the religion is a nothing burger. What does every religion have in common? I've simplified them down into two, and an optional third, parts. Philosophy, ritual, and the option of a myth. The primary components of religion are just philosophy and ritual. Religion, even if organized, is not a bad thing. It's what you center your life around. Some examples could be self-development, activism, activists. Activists tend to be the most religious people I know, politics, or even hedonism. Honestly, I would even say some people turn their gender into their religion, whatever you allow to drive your conduct. Now, I don't know what the personal life of Matt Walsh is like. Perhaps he does lead a very Christ-like life outside of his job. But if he is like in his videos, and he brings up politics and debates people constantly, I would take a wild guess and say he values politics more than Christianity. Again, I don't know what he's like personally, but if politics drive his actions more than humility and goodwill, I would take a gander and say that politics would be his true religion. And that goes for a lot of evangelicals. Can't blame them too much, seeing as modern Christianity has been so castrated that its adherents still feel the need to find fulfillment from other sources, but that's another video. Matt, if you're watching this, you've made some solid videos, but good God, your vitriol is not leading people to Christ. If you hold a Christian worldview, and you were to die today and go to heaven, do you think God would look into the depths of your soul and see that you are genuine in your faith? Do you think he wouldn't feel hurt that you half-assed your faith and prioritized other pursuits, treated the creator of the cosmos like an imaginary friend you sometimes talk at? If Christianity is true, that means one denomination is closer to the absolute truth than the rest. Have you done your research? How do you know the Calvinists aren't right, or the Orthodox, or the Baptists, or even Mormons? If you have your doctrine incorrect, and you made little effort to find the truth, your God might send you to hell and be fully justified, seeing as he is the absolute truth that you didn't put in the due effort to find. This is why I have such a hard time taking most Christians seriously, because they treat their faith with such irreverence that I don't think they even believe in their own God. For most Christians in the West, I would venture to estimate that most of them are more religious for politics or materialism. Not that that's inherently evil, but I can promise you that that road is not fulfilling. particularly when you claim to hold a worldview that demands more. Once you get past the survival stage, virtue should really be your biggest priority. Not that virtue shouldn't factor in if you are lacking in food and shelter, but if you're in a Donner Party situation and your friend dies, well, at that point you gotta figure out what the value of human flesh is to you and why pretty quickly. If you choose cannibalism, you can flesh out the ethics of your situation in more depth when you're safe. We can't avoid it. Many religious practices, such as meditation and fasting, once thought to be arbitrary outside of certain religions, are now increasing in popularity. There was a time just about every religion practiced these things to some extent. What do you think prayer is? A request? To an all-knowing, omnipotent God? No, it's an act of humility, just like meditation. It is setting yourself aside for a moment, or maybe hours, days even, and humbling yourself before the cosmos, suppressing your ego. Notice how meditation and fasting are becoming mainstream outside of standard religions. People have an innate thirst for religion because religion is literally how we determine our course. Now you may be asking, Scoundreless, what's your religion? Well... You know, it kind of shifts, it ebbs and flows, but there are some pillars that keep it on a certain course. So the pillars of my personal religion would probably be absurdism as a worldview. Everything is outside of our control, not a whole lot of things make sense, and we're never going to find the absolute truth of most things. I do believe that there is an absolute truth, but whether we'll be able to perceive or measure that is up for debate. Also, Stoicism, more of the Epictetus school of thought, focusing on character, living in accordance with nature, kind of drives my actions. You know, absurdism sets the stage, but Stoicism is how I choose to go about living. And there's also a sizable helping of Ted Kaczynski or St. John of Kronstadt philosophy mixed in there for good measure. I think that blends in well with the Epictetus Stoic mindset. I consider exercise to be a ritual, and I try to stay healthy, and you know, I don't really howl at the moon whenever it's full. I mean, I have poured libations, particularly an Aurora Borealis recently, while stoned and listening to Nordliga Runeskog by Ossie and the Jupiter. I also listened to Degradation Trip, that was great. You know, just looking up into that sky, I couldn't help but pour a little Lafroig out in reverence. I suppose I have those mini rituals that seem appropriate. And I would do the same for an earthquake that destroys my home. I respect the forces of nature so much they might as well be gods to me. I just feel no need or any authority to personify them with names. We are responsible for our creations. Humanity has so many creations that they cannot be effectively sustained and are destined to either collapse or backfire. Just look at how dizzyingly rapid the advance of AI has been, or how much we rely on technology to the point we cannot function in society without it. The simpler humans live, the better. Which is why, despite my overthinking tendencies, I advocate for simplifying one's life whenever feasible. But that can be for a different video. And honestly, I think some people might be better off religious in a layman's sense, you know, with a standard religion. I prefer absolute truth, or at least the pursuit of it. Some people just don't, it's not a concern of theirs. I don't see much of a moral imperative as long as people who value truth less also avoid making big decisions that affect other people. I have seen people become worse after joining a religion, as well as after leaving it. Some people simply live more fulfilled lives because they're religious. They treat others better. They don't feel the need to constantly obey logic. Humanity will never, as a whole, value logic. So why not leave the people who don't alone? If they say specific dangerous things, have a dialogue about the issue, going deeper when necessary. Foregoing logic in favor of fantasy is not necessarily evil, but those that do forgo it should just admit it. Whether that be a mystic or one who identifies as a toaster-hairbrush combo, just saying logic doesn't need to factor in and then carrying on doing their thing is fine. I will say though, foregoing logic for moral reasons I think is an insult to morality. If you don't bother with logic, don't come up with a moral reason to justify it. Trying to do things more in line with reality is never a bad thing. It has been used in conjunction with bankrupt morals, but people should fight for what they think is right. I know I'm probably wrong about some things. You do too. But does that mean we shouldn't fight for them? If we find evidence to the contrary, we can shift our beliefs accordingly and then fight for those in hopes of fulfilling that belief. It's only logical. Perhaps I should have titled this video, Everyone Needs Religion, because once you can identify your modality in terms of ritual and philosophies, you can pinpoint where you are erring more easily so that you can course correct. But the thing is, if you're not aware of these things, you are still abiding, even if subconsciously, by certain philosophies and principles, and you are carrying out certain rituals. Hence, everyone is religious.